Okay, so I was just sitting here thinking that we really need to connect this all back up with the history of mankind because I think that is very important. Now, the history that we've been told, a lot of what we learn in school is the history of America, first of all. And then I know there's world history when I honestly cannot believe probably can't believe, but I can't exactly remember how they taught world history or what they really had to say. You have to give me a second. Um, I know that it's probably not truth as far as things go. Okay, so I'm trying to think of a way to bring together the law of attraction with the history of mankind. Because if I go by the history as I'm believing it to be, we were created as an experiment of sorts by the Anunnaki when they came visiting. However, if we go by things that I've heard more recently and tend to make more sense, we are living in an illusion. So, there's still I think part of where we kind of get twisted on believing and not believing is that because we live in a world that's created, then we feel as though things have to be created, right? So, okay, say for instance, Mark was talking about quantum physics and how our brain works. And I'd seen this before on some videos. Well, he says we don't see things like in front of us. We see them in our heads. Like they're just reflections, refractions. Okay, so he's saying that what happens is your mind, which is inside your skull, receives an say light waves or energy waves or whatever. And so basically what's happening is it's coming from the inside. Everything that we see is actually inside. So it's kind of like you're inside your head, but you see yourself physically, right? There was another explanation I had seen a couple of years ago, and it was so weird. Me trying to see how that worked. My whole brain was just like backfiring, because it was saying that the reason you can't see behind you is because you're actually seeing everything from within your head, which is exactly what he's saying. Like, I'm getting a headache now just thinking of it. But it's like, it's the reflections from the outside are going in through your eyes and reflecting back onto the screen of your mind. And all of this that we see on the outside is really on the inside screen. I know, you're like, what? I know, right? This is what he's saying. And I believe it. And just because it seems a little twisted, because it's so hard, unless you've heard it a couple times, you're like, yeah, right. I'm turning this off. This is craziness, you know? But it just makes sense. And it makes sense because do this. Tell someone this and have them explain what they see in the room to you. And then you tell them what you see in the room. And see how close you come to having the same thought. I mean, think about it this way. In our society, they take us as children to teach us. Do you ever wonder why we go to school so young? It's not a conspiracy. It just makes sense, guys. Think about this. I mean, kids are in school at 2 or 3 years old. I mean, even though it's pre-K, it's still an opportunity to take you from your mother or your father and input information in you that really may or may not even be real. You don't know, you're at work. And so what happens is we receive all this information, pictures and words, and things that at a young age are easy to absorb. And so we're always going to have these connections to things like an apple or a banana or an elephant. Because we saw this at such a young age, our mind is hardwired with these images. Even if you never see an elephant in your entire life, physically touch it, you always have that elephant in your head because you learned it when you were 2 years old. Okay. So think about that before you decide whether what I'm saying is true. Because we have this catalog of images from childhood that we use to do things with, which makes so much sense if you think about it. None of this could be real. They take you straight from your womb, basically. Basically from the womb to start teaching you. Even parents, they don't even realize it. You know, you put your face in front of your baby's face and they're like, hi, I'm your mommy, I'm your daddy's. Boom. They know who you are forever. It's all stored in a memory bank to be brought up to you when you need it. And it's interesting because, I mean, that could totally be used against you at any point in time. You ever think about that? You know, how many times have you really seen your relatives or your parents? You got this memory of them when you were so young, of not just how they look, but how they smell, how they think, how they react. And then you kind of, as you're older, you get these layers of dealing with them. You know, it's like input over and over and over, to when you're dealing with people, you're actually only dealing with your perception of them. Yeah, it's coming together, right? That's what you're dealing with, your perceptions of people, not the actual people, because we don't really exist. See what I'm saying? Everything's an illusion, right? Everything on the outside is an illusion. Now, our inner selves, our source selves, exist all over the place. It's us in the body. It's everyone else in their bodies, and we're reacting with each other's energies. It's more energies. You know, I just had a thought. If we could actually have satellites in space, if they were real, and they look down upon this plane that they call Earth, they would probably just see energy. Just a bunch of piles of energy. Because we're energy. That far away, you can't see a body. It's too small. That's a thought, right? That just came to me. But yeah, think of it that way, because we spend our whole lives absorbing all this information, and I've heard numbers recently where they say there's millions of pieces of information, like right now as I'm speaking to you, this information is being received by my receptors. I'm unaware. I saw a bird. I'm totally unaware of like 99.9% of it, especially because I'm talking. But it's just, there's so much, because there's a whole energy field around us and through us and in us, and other dimensions of things going on around us. Things that are not on my frequency. I'm on the 3D frequency. So every other D that's happening is not clicking with me because I'm not on that frequency. Now, the more that you're aware of spirit and the energy fields, the more levels you're more able to receive. But that's just more information. You know, it's just... So anyway, that's a lot to consider. I'll be back.